record here. Okay, so one thing we know about real estate, it changes, right? So, so one of the things that we have to talk about and look at is how do we guide our clients based on current information, right? Been doing this a long time, and so have seen this marketplace before. And something to keep in mind is in anything to do with real estate, it's like, you know, it still is an investment. It still is something that can change daily. It is something that we can never predict on when or if a shift will happen. But we have to be able to supply them and help our clients understand the, you know, what's going on in the marketplace. Okay, and the best way to do that is by analyzing and using the graphs and data that we have available to us. Okay, one thing to let you know right now, you know, to share with you, I have seen this before where we have had a very accelerated price increase, and then where all of a sudden we have a, you know, let's not call it a roadblock, but definitely a shift. What is going to happen and what is happening right now, and they'll probably take place for the next 45 days, is we have, you know, in the industry itself, there are consumers that bought first. So they bought a place anticipating they would be able to sell their places right away, multiple offers. Well, over a weekend, that changed. So we still have right now, I'm going to call it just a backlog of people that are now panicking on how am I going to close the house that I bought because I can't get the price that I was anticipating on getting. So what we're seeing in the marketplace, and we will see probably for the next, as I say, 30 to 45 days, is those particular people are having to reduce to be able to sell. And some of them are at a point where they're reducing, they have to reduce low enough to be able to get it sold, but then are in a position where they either have to come up with secondary financing to be able to close the purchase. Okay. But we're going to go through that period. It's already happening, and we're going to see that for the next 30 to 45 days. Once that washes through, then we have buyers and sellers that are going to be buying and selling in the same marketplace. So they will be looking and saying, well, I could have got in February this price, but today I can only get this price. And by using the data and the graphs, we're also going to say that's fine, but now you're buying and selling in the same marketplace. Okay, so the market is not going to halt. It's just going to go through this very short period of time where there's listings and forces where people have to sell. So you are going to see some sales that are below, possibly substantially below where they could have been. But once those wash through, then you don't have people panicking that they have to sell. So you're going to get back to more of a balanced marketplace. And the graphs I'm going to show you are actually you're going to see that where we will see more listings. Absolutely. We talked about this in January, where we anticipated that we would have less sales this year, unit sales sold, than we did in 2021. And that's what we're seeing. So that's not a surprise. The surprise is how quickly it went from being multiple offers to all of a sudden there's buyers out there, but they're hesitant to be in multiple offers. Before I start showing you the graphs, I do want to let you know that during the crazy peak of, let's call it February, okay, the the daily solds in the Greater Toronto area was right around 80% of the solds reported daily were at asking price or above. Okay. And unit numbers of sales were roughly between 150 and 200 on a daily basis. Yesterday and the day before, same criteria. We have 63 sales that took place, reported sold on Tuesday. We had 67. So definitely much lower unit sales. Interesting stat though, 45% of the sales reported on Tuesday were at asking price or above. Yesterday, 56.7% of the sales reported were at asking price or above. Okay, so what that indicates to me is there are still lots of buyers out there. There are buyers that are looking at properties that are still interested in going into multiple offers for value properties. The value could either be as the asking price or it's the location or type of house it is. We definitely see where there's more inventory for more of a traditional style of property. For instance, there's an area in Mississauga that I monitor and have monitored from the early 80s, where it's a typical 3-bedroom, 2-story, 12 to 1,300 square foot detached single car garage. Okay. In the peak of February, nicely fixed up, they were selling for 1.15 to 1.2. Today, there's more listings, and now they're selling around $1 million. Okay, but in that is because you have more product of a very similar style house. So now take that to being a regular townhouse condominium in a complex where now there may be 3 or 4 units, again, supply and demand. Yet, if you have a particular unit or house that is unique, the buyers are there. And the buyers have no problem still competing in multiple offers. You know, so over 50% of the transactions are at asking price or above. So that's where, so if you are looking at your listings, it's, if you're going to price it really low, you're going to still have, if it's a good property, you're still going to have buyers. Okay. So
sorry, Scott, are you finding buyers are who bought at the higher prices? Are they trying to get out of offers yet, as we saw in 2017?
We've had a few buyers that have said, look, you know, we can't get the money we need, so they look at trying to either renegotiate, or they are basically saying, you know, if I'm not going to close, you know, here's my deposit, and, you know, go ahead and resell it if they can. Very few of those. What we are getting is where people are looking at private funds to be able to get it closed. Okay. And I'm sure there will be, and that's why I say, like, you know, imagine people that bought in January, February, in the first, like, you know, we started seeing a shift in that first week of March. So the people that bought January, February, their closing dates really are the end of this month. The majority of them were right the end of this month into the, you know, maybe to the middle of June. So we are washing through some of those. We had a situation where one particular property, it was definitely the people bought firm, one of our listings. They went to sell their property, having difficulty getting it sold. Did end up getting it sold, but then went to get the financing for the purchase, and financing had changed. So they had to look at getting extensions on the closing date. The sellers did give a grant a few extra days, and then basically came back and the people said, look, we can't close that day, but we do, and we are confident that we'll have the money within 5 more days. And they actually released the money we were holding in deposit through their lawyers. The buyers basically said, we're going to give you all the deposit. And it was a substantial deposit. And if we don't close, you've already got the money. You don't have to sue us for the deposit. The deal ended up closing, but it got financed through private money. Okay, so that's where, you know, we even back in January, we talked about this year, we'd probably see more private funding become necessary. And that's what we are seeing. There definitely will be, Tina, probably some transactions that the buyers just wash their hands of and, you know, walk away. But more than not, what we're hearing is they're really trying to figure out how to close them. Okay, does that help answer your question a bit?
Yeah,
okay.
No, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So, you know, so what we have to look at is, you know, if you're talking with your clients, how do you direct them? Well, I know I've got a couple listings coming up and they were trying to get their house ready, but because one's an estate, it was like they're waiting for the legalities of that to take place before it gets listed. You know, they're going, we hear the market's changing. Yep, the market has changed. And yes, February, you would definitely get more money than what you're going to get probably the end of May when we get it listed. But it's still going to be substantially more than what you would have had last year. And there are still buyers for it. And because it's a unique property, I think I'm still going to be able to get them, no, you know, not what they could have got in February, but, you know, it's probably going to sell for 1.6, or maybe I could have got them 1.65, 1.7 back then. But now, so for them, it's something where, you know, they're basically selling and yeah, we wish we could have, but we couldn't. So there was no factor there. The factors are when you are talking with people today about buying and selling, that it is within the same time frame. Okay, so which is going to be more of a balanced market, what we're going to see. But the stats actually show that the adjustment that we're seeing is not uncommon. Okay, so let me just share my screen with you. We're going to go through some charts. Everybody see my screen yet?
Yeah.
Okay, you got the screen? Okay. So what we're looking at, this is for all of the boards that are part of ITSO, okay? So, you know, ITSO takes in 22 real estate boards across Ontario. So this shows you the graph basically from 2019 right through until last reported the end of April, so May 1st. This is the actual average sale price. So yeah, back in February at the peak, you can see the value there, and you can see that, yes, it's come down. Interestingly though, year over year, so from April 21 to April 22, the prices are still up by 18.6%. Okay, so do we anticipate this average sale price coming down further? Well, let's have a look and see why would we think that that would take place? Well, we know that looking at how more listings, reporting more sales, this is definitely going to be affected. But it is, you know, when you're talking with people, you need to use this to say, but yes, but look, as an investment, even going as far back as, you know, 3-4 years ago, 3 years ago, look what it has done. Okay. Ratio of new listings. Well, here's the number of listings that happened in April. no different than if we look back a year ago, exactly the same, 0% change. So new listings in April versus new listings April a year ago, no different. We had a good, strong marketplace throughout this period of time. And we see that the listing inventory as we go into the summer went down. No different than if we look back in, 2020 is different. We'll look at 2019, obviously, because the spring of 2020, we had COVID adjustments we had to look at. But even here, if we look at 2019, we can see that going into the summer, we saw less number of listings, but in the marketplace, absolutely. So the inventory increase we're seeing is not uncommon. You look at homes for sale, again, this is the total number. This is no different than if we look at 2019, which was a good, strong, steady market. We're still well below that line. Okay. Unit sales, absolutely. We know and we anticipated that the unit sales would decrease this year. One, because of lack of inventory more so, but more so because of affordability. Days on market. Our days on market, even during April, was only 7. And it's exactly what it was April of 2021. Months of supply, we're at 1.3. If we look back to 2019, we're at 2.9. And we still have a very good, strong marketplace throughout 2019. So even though 2022 is a transition year and we're dealing with a little bit of an adjustment right now, we are still looking at comparing it to 2019 so our marketplace for 2019 versus what we probably anticipate for the balance of this year is probably going to be comparable. And if we look at percentage of, even in April, okay, listed, and we definitely during the month of April saw changes, but 110% of asking price was being obtained. Okay, so even though we have obviously an adjustment from 120% in February, just as we were talking about with some of the stats, over 50% of the sales are still at asking price or above. So still a strong market. If we go look back at 2019, 98%, 99%. So even by this adjusting down even further, okay, we are still in a position where if we compare 2019 to what we may see the rest of the year, still a good, strong market. Okay, so that's where, using the graphs, you can help explain where the marketplace is, and we can use history to show, comparisons. All righty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get out of that one. This is for the Toronto Real Estate Board. Okay, so based on the Toronto Real Estate Board stats, which are right in TREB, so TREB members, you can use this. Looking at total residential transactions a year over year, absolutely. We know April, there were less transactions, but we anticipated in 2022, transactions would be less, okay? Interestingly, though, if you look at March to April, yep, less transactions. But your year over year selling price from a year ago is still up by 15%. Yet the average sale price did fall by 6.4%. But the average sale price usually does start coming down as we have, the more listings that get sold. The number of new listings, if we compare it to even last year, yeah, we had less number of listings. So even though it seemed like we had a crazy flood of listings, we were still less new listings compared to April of 2021. Okay. Interesting, if you look at the days on market, exactly the same from a year ago. So even though we've had a market adjustment, it's a strong, good marketplace compared to 2021. Okay. And our days on market, if you look at it's only up by 1. So the thing to look at is using this information. You can certainly see and present to your client base that, you know what, this isn't uncommon. We anticipated, and this is why. And this is, if we look at comparing it to 2019, which was very similar, then this is what we see happening. So by using those graphs, using those stats, when you're doing your presentations, the only thing that you need to, the only thing that would be different is if you're dealing with somebody right now, as we talked about earlier, that has already bought and is just needs to sell. Okay. Moving forward throughout the rest of the year, or moving forward with new clients today, use these graphs, use these charts, because the sky is not falling. This is something we have seen before. This is something we anticipated. And by using these and using, even printing out, like I basically print out from the list, and that's where I highlight how many sold at equal or above asking. And I use these in my presentation. Be as well. Okay. Thoughts, questions on using these graphs? Are they helpful? Do they help understand a bit more what's going on in the marketplace? This is the interactive part.
I think they're helpful. I recently bought some social media packages where you can plug these numbers in, so I wouldn't mind doing that to show too.
Right.
There's a prospecting tool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is, you have these tools, right? And it's important because there is, at the same time that we have this information, the media takes the information and says the sky is falling, unit sales went down by 41%. And yeah, but let me explain it to you why. Let me show you what's going on. And that's where the graphs and the stats can help you present that. So instead of telling them something, you're saying, look, let me share with you all the information, not just the parts that the media want to hide. Okay.
Good point. Good point.
Right. So,
okay.
And that's why it's important that you know where to get those graphs, how to read them, how to compare. And that's why I wanted to show it to you and explain, so that, they're definitely, that's good information to present to somebody.
Okay.
Okay. Questions, thoughts, anything else that, yeah, Julia.
I found it interesting that we had notice of rate hikes coming, and in the past, when that was coming down the pipe, people rushed to buy, and it didn't happen this time, really.
It didn't
see a big rush to buy when those big rate hikes came.
And then there wasn't the big rush to buy per se, because one of the issues is that what overshadowed that was the media was then saying these rate hikes are going to crash the market. So you had some buyers sitting on the sidelines that, first of all, we knew we would have less buyers this year just because of the affordability. Okay, so the pricing went up, their affordability was here. So even with a rate hike going up, lots of those buyers were taken out of the marketplace before the rate hike. Okay. So the rush in of the people who, you know, were basically saying, I want to buy, in some areas, they couldn't anyways. They couldn't even, that's why they were taken out of the marketplace even before the rate hike happened. So I think, Julia, that would be why you didn't see. Normally what happens is we have people that are pre-qualified, right? When the rate hike used to happen, people had their pre-approvals and they had to buy within 120 days or they're going to lose that rate. Well, those people couldn't react because they were in a price range they could buy. Lots of them couldn't because there was definitely no price range that anything they could buy.
Scott, I have to leave the meeting.
All right. Thanks, Tina.
I need to look after 2 dogs that are
Yep.
rather
No problem. Thanks for joining us.
interesting part was prices are still up
Yes.
compared to last year. That
Yeah.
I found interesting.
Good.
And I started doing certainly in Rexdale a situation where a client of mine bought or sold a house, and I said,
Why?
in 2020 the house would have been, are you me?
Yeah, go ahead.
The house would have been worth 850. It would have been worth 950 last year, and probably about 1.2, 1.3 this year.
Okay.
Now I have just sold 2, and both of them are 100,000 below asking. But having said that, we're definitely seeing, we're still up over last year, and I'm seeing that people are easier to deal with. They're listening to the media and basically understanding that, yeah, this market is going down and we better get the best we can.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. All
I've
right.
gotta leave. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. So, you know, understanding, again, using this information to, you know, as part of your presentation, one, it shows that you're the professional with the information. Okay. And it's third-party information. These are graphs that are put together by multiple boards. So it is cumulative around all different areas of Ontario. Okay. So definitely use them. Any other questions, thoughts about any of the information? Any situations that you want to talk about? Is anybody in a situation where you have a seller or a buyer that has bought, and anything that you need to discuss there? Okay. Anita, I'm going to pick on you for 1 second.
Okay.
What's happening in the Niagara area? Are you still seeing GTA buyers?
No, not really. Not as much as we were seeing, like, you know, the last couple of years.
Okay.
Jay just did a deal and he was still in competition in St. Catherine, or sorry, Welland, last week.
Okay.
So there is still competition. I have the situation, like you said, where we bought that first week and it's closing the end of this month, and we had to go and sell their house, and they didn't get what they wanted and they were very disappointed, right?
Yeah.
But we were able to do it anyways. They were prepared for it. So we saw like in Fort Erie especially, things kind of dried up. Like it was like instantaneous.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm listing a property today, and good price, competitive to recent sales. So we'll see what happens with this, going forward.
Okay. I spoke with our broker owner in Sudbury this morning, and he said, we're still seeing multiple offers on properties. There's still a shortage of inventory, but he said it's interesting where one will sell at, this price, and then the next sale, which is a better house, actually sells for less. It just happens to be what was available at that time. Right. And I think that's what we're going to see in this marketplace, where, we may get a week where that happens to be the only product available, it sells. All of a sudden, 3 days later, you get a couple listings, supply and demand changes, and that's what we're gonna be going through, okay?
Yep.
But the sales, the marketplace is still going to be a good, steady marketplace. As we talked about in January, this is a year where agents have to be really working, really on top of it because of the transitions taking place, because of the uncertainty.
Right. I have a buyer, I have a couple of buyers, and they're hesitant to buy, right? Because of prices and things, and they don't have anything to sell. They're first time buyers.
Yeah.
So they've kind of pulled back too, which is kind of strange because I'm like, this is the time to go and get them, right?
Right.
We offers conditional of finance and inspection being accepted as well, which is super unique right now, or in the past few years.
I just had one go firm yesterday, condition finance, appraisal, and status.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, but that I also chased it off market, that they had it on the market forever. Scott, the unit, you saw it. And it expired, and I put in an offer after it expired. So
that's good. Smart.
Yeah. Good strategy.
And
Because if it fails, they don't lose, right?
right.
The seller doesn't lose face.
Yeah. And that's where some of the opportunities are, right? The opportunities are where, if you're looking for property and it may have come off the market, reach out to the agents and just say, hey, like, even if it was one that was last year, like if you think about anything that didn't sell last year where some situation may have changed, if you reach out to that agent and say, hey, I know last year you had the listing, don't know if it, I've always been a believer, if I know the agent had some kind of influence on those people, I'm going to reach out to the agent and say, hey, you know what, are they still interested? Could this work? Because those people may have taken their house off the market because they couldn't find anything to buy, where now they might be able to, and they're in a situation from a year ago, the pricing has actually increased. So you got to look for those opportunities and reach out. Okay.
Scott, admittedly, I'm not a graph knowledgeable person,
Okay.
but do you think that part of the reason why the prices look like this went over listing is for that period of time everybody was under pricing the listing to start with? So what are your thoughts on real value as opposed to list price and sale price?
What do you mean? Well, real value is where the buyers and sellers actually agree upon.
Right. So, but today, if you were taking a listing, would you, and unless you have a very unique property, would you still price it low and do multiples, or would you price it at what the reasonable expectation is for that property?
Depends on the property.
Right.
The one that I'm going to list on Kingswood, I'm going to ask probably 300,000 less than what I think it should sell for.
Right.
Okay. I have another one coming up on Mississauga that's probably worth 2.4 to 2.5. And there are some other competition around which has been higher at 2.6, 2.7. She was hoping to get 2.8 for it. And I said, well, when we talked about it in November, I was telling you we're getting maybe 2.1, 2.2. I said, your value is still higher than that. I'm probably going to list that one at 2.55. So, but not hold off offers on it. But that's a nice 4-bedroom, 2-story finished basement on Bridle Path Trail here in Mississauga. So depending on the property, Carol, absolutely. But like I can tell you on the sheets that I did the pricing on, and just seeing of the ones that sold for more, at or more, it really didn't matter what price range. $499 sold for $622. One was $548, sold for $625. Some were right at $599, sold for $599. So really, to answer your question on would you list as close to value, doesn't matter what marketplace, I would say, sure, if that's what you know, if it is a traditional style property, I'm gonna list it as close to or right at that price. Okay, but I'm seeing this in all the different price ranges for multiples. Now, I will tell you that some of them were, it is interesting that on the sheets, you know, asking price of 980 to 999, most of those sold higher, like 1.1, 1.2. Looking at a price range where some of them were asking $1,199,000, majority of those sold for $1,300,000, $1,500,000, $1,200,000, $1,400,000. So people are pricing those. And there are even, you know, even condos, you know, condo townhouses, condo apartments, where people have listed at $499, sold for $622. So I think, you know, looking at depending on the property you have. Okay. Yeah, John.
Yeah, Scott. Something I've noticed in the last short little while, more so on condos, is listings are coming out and then within a few days, they are being increased from 50,000 to 150,000 over their original list price. I'm just wondering, you know, it makes you wonder whether the vendor is upset about what happens during the process. I understand the, you know, things selling over asking, but why there's so many changing list prices within the first week up substantially? Any comments on that?
Yeah. So what happens usually with those listings, John, is they go in, they say, okay, you know what, we're gonna hold off offers for 3 or 4 days, and let's see if we can get the pricing that you want. And either no offers come in. So no offers come in. So they say, okay, well, let's put the price up to where we think it should be. And that's why you see those adjustments. If you're going to do that strategy, cancel the listing and relist it. Yep, Julia?
So I usually cancel and relist, but on that townhouse, I marked it up.
Right. Yeah.
And the number of people that came out of the came out and saw that there was a price change, and I priced it up, and then I got multiple offers.
Yeah.
Like, and I've seen that happen on other properties, like not just mine. It's just the strangest thing. It really is the strangest thing.
Yeah. And we are getting the mentality where even though we're seeing over 50%, there are some buyers right now that, and maybe Carol, this will address what you're thinking, is they don't want to compete. They'll pay the price, but I don't want to compete. So John, to answer yours, exactly that is they've tried to do the multiple offers, either got multiple offers but didn't get the price they want, and said, okay, we're going to put it up to this price. And in some cases that works, where a buyer that was interested said, okay, what's the number that I can buy it at? Okay. And I've seen, and I can literally tell you, we had a listing on Don Mills, a condo that Nasir had, and he had it at $799, had an offer from somebody, couldn't get to the price because they were, you know, far below. He reduced it, canceled it, reduced it to hold off offers, got an offer, and then they signed that offer back, and the people didn't take the price because it was the first offer. Agent called him and said, what number will it take? And he said, well, it's going to take 780. And he said, if you give us the sign back, you sign back from the seller to this buyer, my guy will pay 780, but he's not going to give the offer to you. The seller signed back to 780, the buyer took it because he saw the value, wasn't in competition. So, and that's what's going on in the marketplace.
I've done that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be a ruse in creating a multiple offer situation. So.
Yeah, so, you know, and that's where, you know, all these different situations are happening. And that's where, though, you'll see properties that you think, man, I don't know why that one didn't sell. And then all of a sudden higher price and then it sells, and then you've got other ones that should sell that aren't. And that's usually where they're, well, as I say, a traditional style property that now has competition around it. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas? All right. Well, I just want to thank you very much for, I've recorded this. I will send it off. But do check your MLS systems for using those graphs. If it's the ITSO graphs that you're using, they update those the first of every month. Okay, so you can go in June 1st and it'll have the May stats already there. Okay, for Treb, same thing. You can go in and just, use them, understand them, do your, in your presentations, use this kind of stuff. Okay, because I know it works. All right. Well, thank you again. Get out, enjoy the nice sunny day. It's good to see the temperatures rising, but still going to be a good steady marketplace. The sky is not falling. Okay. We got to work. We got to be professionals. Right. So,
Thanks.
all right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.